Hi, I'm Kira. Welcome to my channel. So today we are going to flip through my 2025 reading journal before I do anything to it. Although I have started using it because I have already finished 3 books this year. Currently filming this on January 16th. I've already started reading for the year and I've finished 3 books, so I do have all my stats and stuff for those books put into the reading journal right now. That way you can just see how I actually use the journal. Before I show you it, though, you might be wondering where my final flip through for my 2024 reading journal is. I promise it's coming soon. It's not finished yet. I've finished all the reading stats and stuff for the year, but I'm backed up, I think right now until August of 2024 with my scrapbook junk journal type pages for my favorite books or whatever inspired me to make a scrapbook junk journal page for it. So I will be working very hard this next week to try and get it done to film it next week. So hopefully you'll see that video a few days to a week after this one is posted. Fingers crossed. With that being said, here is my 2025 reading journal. It is the same exact journal that I used last year, just a different color. I picked purple this year and I've already covered it almost all the way in bookish stickers. I'm going to set up a little area on the floor to go flip through this with you, and I'll show you all of my spreads for this year. I hope this is a somewhat decent angle where you will be able to see most of what is on the page. I don't have an overhead tripod, so kind of working with what I have. So here are all the stickers I put on the front of the journal. I do have space right here in the middle for one more small one, and then on the back I do have a little bit of space left for some more. The color scheme I went with this year, you can see up in the corner, is a purple and orange and kind of like a magenta purple-ish color. Last year I did very simple, all gray, so that the colors of the book covers that I printed off to put in the journal would really pop. But this year I want to spice it up a little bit and do a lot of color. Here is my title page. I just went pretty simple with block letters. This is my first book tracker page. I think I have 3 total. This is my tracking squares, so every time I read a book I color it in. So you can see I've already colored in 3. This goes up to 184 books just because that's how much space I had to fill. My goal is 75 books though, so that's what I'm aiming for. Next is my bookshelf tracker. Also, a lot of these spreads I just duplicated almost exactly from last year's journal. Some I used the same concept but changed up the layout, so I'll explain that as I go. This bookshelf page, pretty much the exact same. I used the same exact window. As you can see, a ladder layout over here with a couple plants, but I added this Dutch door page just for extra space, which I didn't do last year. Also last year, whenever I read a book, I just colored it in all in the same gray highlighter. This year, I'm going to color coordinate my books. So purple will be, if I read it, both in the physical book and in an ebook format. Orange will just be physical book, and the magenta will just be ebook. And I'm planning to fill up this first page before I move on to this extra page. This is the book cover tracker. I had this in my last year's journal and really liked it, so it's very simple. Whenever I finish a book, I print out a picture of the cover and I put it in the order that I read them. And for this one, I have 2 extra pages. And then this is my book log, so it's the final yearly tracking system spread, I guess you could say. This one I just have these columns and I write the title, author, genre of the book, the month I read it, and then my star rating, just so it's all in one place. This is the same from last year's, and I have 2 pages for that. Here is my 5-star reads page. Pretty much the same as last year, although I think I had a Dutch door extra page for this one last year because don't know what I was thinking. I don't know why I thought I would have that many 5 stars. Realistically, I probably would only have 1 page of 5 stars, but I do really want to reread a lot of my favorites this year that are 5 stars, and I do include those on this page, so I was just safe and did a double spread for this one. So this is kind of the same as the book cover tracker. I'll just print out a picture of all my 5-star reads and put them in the little squares as I read them. This is my physical TBR spread. This is brought over from last year's journal. I really like the satisfaction of crossing off the books from my physical TBR as I read them, so I did it again. If you want to hear every book that is on this list, my last video that I posted is my physical TBR that I'm starting 2025 with, and all the books on this list are in that video. So I have this page and a second page. There are less books than last year because this was all filled up. And I actually made the columns a little shorter than I did last year, so there's significantly less books on my physical TBR this year, which I'm very happy about. These are two kind of new spreads. This is a spread from the previous year, which is actually one I added later on into the year, so I'm starting the year with it this time. This is my physical TBR that I add to my pile in 2025, so any new books I buy that I haven't read yet go on this list. And I only made it one page because I'm hopeful that I will not buy more books I haven't read yet than this. And then this kind of coincides with this page. This is a new spread for this year. It is a books bought page. So I just have columns for title, author, the month I bought it in, and I can check off if I read it before I buy it, because that is a big goal for me this year. I want to read books before I buy a physical copy of them, unless it's part of a series that I really enjoy or an author that I love, and I know I will read them right away. This is my series tracker for the year. It is slightly different than last year. I took inspiration for this one from Rachel Catherine. I'm not happy with how mine turned out because I was using a very thick fine liner for part of it, and then I switched to a smaller one, so it looks a little funky to me. And then I have lots of extra space. This is my release tracker. This is pretty much the exact same as my tracker from last year. I just have all 12 months in these little squares, and I write my anticipated releases and the date they release. I did mess up on June when I was making it, so I had to make July the same awkward extra square longer than the rest. Ignore that. Not supposed to be like that. This is a revamped page from last year's 24 Book Street in 2024. This is now 25 Book Street in 2025. I've made it a TBR cart. Last year I had 2 pages and they both just had a stack of books on them. It's kind of boring, so I wanted to switch it up this year. And this might be my favorite page in the whole journal. I just love the title. I wrote down 25 books from my physical TBR at the moment that I want to read by the end of the year, and I will color them in as I read them. This is the same day that I finished a book page from last year. I copied it exactly because I really liked that system. And then the dates over there at the end of the month, I will write how many days I finished a book. Not how many books I finished in the month, but how many days I finished a book, because I could finish 2 books in one day. This is a switch up of last year's book of the month page. Last year I had 2 pages, 6 months on each side. This one I just put all on one side so I could save space. So at the end of the month I will print off the cover of my favorite book that I read that month and put it in its square to match the month. And then this one is for any rereads that I do, which I do plan to do quite a bit this year. I did have this page in last year's journal, but I added it on later on in the year. So now it is up front with the rest of the spreads. And I just have title and author for this column. This is also a duplicate page from last year. This is my 2025 book bracket, but I didn't mess it up this year. Last year I messed it up and I put the months in these squares where I was supposed to write the book titles. So it looks better this year. Kind of the same thing as my favorite book of the month, but this time I'll put them in these little brackets, and then as the year goes along I'll be able to put them up against each other to find my favorite book of the whole year. This is my mid-year top 10 list and my end-of-year top 10 list. I did have these in my last year's spread, but this one I had at the beginning of the journal and this one I had at the end of the journal. So this year I put them right next to each other to kind of see the difference better. At the end of June, I will print off the pictures of my favorite 10 reads of this year, new reads, not including rereads, and I'll put them here. Same thing at the end of the year, end of December, I will do my top 10 of the whole year. I have done the alphabet challenge for I think the past 3 years, I want to say. 2 or 3 years in my reading journals. But this year I switched it up. I usually always just do it on one page and it's just a list of all the letters and I'll write the title and author. This year, each letter has its own square and I will print out a picture of the cover and put it with its corresponding letter. And I did it this way because previously because in last year's book I had the Read the Rainbow challenge on one side and the alphabet challenge on the other side, and I eliminated the Read the Rainbow challenge this year because it wasn't super exciting to me last year, so I didn't need to do it again. So I spread this one out, and I think I like the way it looks a lot. This is the book bingo page. Pretty similar to last year's, except this time I made it 5 by 5, whereas last year I think it was 5 by 6 squares. So it's a little smaller this time. All of these prompts I did use last year as well, so I just kind of brought them over into this year. So this side I have the prompt, and when I read a book that matches the prompt, I'll color in this square, and I'll put the picture of the cover on this side and color a matching color around it, because I like to know what book I read for what prompt. This is a new kind of just fun for me page. This is a Taylor Swift bingo challenge. I found this on Pinterest, but basically there's just prompts based on certain songs. So like Bad Blood would be an enemies to lovers book, and then I'll just put a picture of the cover when I read it. There's only a couple duplicate prompts from this one and my other book bingo page. I thought it would be fun. These two are the only pages I have not done yet because they relate to very end of the year things, and I don't quite know how I want to set them up yet. This is an end of year reading stats page, which I have not done before, so I have no idea what stats I'm going to want to include at the end of the year or how I want to set it up. So I'm going to leave that for future me to figure out at the end of the year. Then I have my Spotify Wrapped and Concerts page, which I did do last year in my journal. I didn't really like how it turned out. I had like this much for Spotify Wrapped and then this much for a list of the concerts I went to this year. But Spotify Wrapped always has different things each year, so I don't really know what I'm going to want to include. Last year I just did my top songs and top artists, so I'm gonna wait till the end of the year to figure that out. And I also don't have any concerts planned right now. I have no tickets to any concerts, whereas at the beginning of last year I had tickets to at least 3 or 4, so I kind of had an idea of how many I was going to. Really all I know this year is I'm pretty sure that Halsey is going on tour, and I will be going to that. But other than that, I have no idea who's going on tour or who I'm going to want to see. So I'm just going to leave it until a concert happens and then I'll figure it out. Or I'll just do it at the end of the year completely. These two pages are for my TV and movie watching. This one was a last minute addition to last year's journal. I don't think it is included in any of the flip throughs I did last year because page I did it on, I initially was going to do another bookshelf tracker, but I didn't end up needing it, so I just came up with this last minute. So this is a TV and movies wrapped, so this is another one I'll fill out at the end of the year. So I just have like total movies watched, total TV seasons watched, and then how many of those were new, how many I rewatched, my top 3 new movies and TV shows and stuff like that. So I'll fill that out at the very end of the year because I do keep track of all that stuff, and you'll see that in a second. And this side, I had this last year as well, but it is different. I initially was going to just completely duplicate the page I had in last year's journal, but I accidentally started drawing the boxes for this page onto this page, and I didn't realize it, so kind of improvised. I don't love how it looks, but basically Regal Unlimited, me and my friend group have passes for Regal Unlimited. We see movies 2, 3, 4 times a month. Last year I liked to keep up with what movies and how many we were seeing each month to make sure I was actually putting my pass to good use and getting my money's worth of it, because you need to see at least 2 movies a month in order for it to be worth it for the price of the pass, which I did do last year, and I did go over by 4 movies, I think. So that's just to keep track of myself. All right, now we are moving into the monthly spreads, or what will be the monthly spreads. I've only done January so far, because I learned my lesson from last year. Last year, I set up a certain amount of pages for each month, and almost every month I needed more pages than what I allowed myself for the things I wanted to junk journal, scrapbook, whatever you want to call it. So this year I'm going month by month, and the complete rest of this journal is empty. So here is my January title page. I went with an eras theme, because who would I be if I didn't? I only did my monthly title pages on one page last year on this side, so this side was left completely empty for all the months. So I'm going to try and use both pages this year, just so every page gets used. So I did the Lover House on this side, and then a star for every era on this side. And then we go into my spreads that will be the same for every month. This is pretty much the same as it was last year. I did eliminate my DNF square just because I feel like I don't need to track that. I track it on Storygraph. So up here, this is my TBR list for the month. Then I have all the books I read. Here is new release tracker and a books bought tracker. This is something I added within the last few months of 2024, so it hasn't been included in my previous journal flip throughs, but it's a reading calendar. So I just have a calendar for the whole month, and then with a highlighter, I highlight the days I read certain books. Then I have important dates and my reading stats, which include total books read, physical books, ebooks, and DNFs. And then also, something new for this year, I've added a TBR count. Well, I have this one for the start of the month, but I feel like I need to start doing it for the end of the month. I don't know why I didn't do that. I'm going to start doing that for the next months. So at the end of the month, I will count all the books on my physical TBR and list it there. This is also the exact same as it was last year. It's just a different style. Here I have my movies watched and TV watched. For the TV watched, it's only shows that I finished in the month. So like if I start watching a show in January, but I don't finish watching it until March, it's not going to get listed in the journal until March. And I have my top songs of the month. So I have an app that tells me my top songs that I listen to each month. So at the end of the month, I go through and put them there. And then this is my books read with ratings page. So I print out the cover of the books and put them in and put the star rating below it. And then here is where my junk journal pages and such will be for books I want to do them for, whatever inspires me, life events, things like that. I have a separate journal now for movie, TV, and music because I was doing it in last year's journal, but I was running out of space. So I started a whole new journal for that. And I'm carrying over that one into this year because it's not done yet. So that was my 2025 empty, pretty much, reading journal, just the setup of it for this year. Like I did last year, I plan to do a mid-year flip through at the end of June. And by then you'll get to see what I mean by like junk journal, scrapbook pages, or you can go watch my previous flip throughs from last year. And I promise a final flip through of 2024 reading journal will be coming soon, hopefully in a couple days from when you're seeing this. I wanted to get this one out as soon as I could in case you're still working on your reading journal and this was able to give you some inspiration maybe, or if you just enjoy watching these videos like I do, no matter what time of year it is, then I hope you enjoyed it. So thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you again soon.